Hi everyone, welcome back. In this lecture, we'll take a look into assertNotNull method, which is exactly opposite to assertNull method, which we were discussed in the previous lecture. Well, the assertions class provides the static assertNotNull method, which we can use to check the actual object is not null. This method takes an actual object and checks whether it is not null. If the actual object is not null, then the test case will pass. If the actual object is null, then the test case will fail. Alright, so if you want to verify that the actual object is not null, then you can go ahead and use this assertNotNull method. And there are a few overloaded assertNotNull methods. So if you go to the documentation over here, and if you can notice here, assertNotNull methods. So there are total 3 overloaded assertNotNull methods, and these are the static methods, and these methods belongs to assertions class. The first assertNotNull method takes single parameter of type object. Second assertNotNull method takes 2 parameters. First is the actual object, second is the message of type string. Third overloaded assertNotNull method takes 2 parameters. First is the actual object, second is the supplier functional interface. Alright, next let us go ahead and let us see these 3 overloaded methods in an action. So let us go to the IntelliJ IDEA and let's go to our project. Let's go to student service test class, and here let's quickly create a test method to demonstrate the usage of assertNotNull method. So here let's quickly create a method, public void, let's give name as get student by id test using assert not null. Perfect. So basically we are going to write the unit test to test this get student by id method, right? Next let us make this method as a test method by annotating it with @test annotation. So basically this @test annotation marks this method as a test method. Next, within this method, let's create an object of student service class. So here I have already created student service class and one student. Let me quickly copy these lines of code and let me go to again get student by id test using assertNotNull method, and here let me paste it. Okay, so here we have created student service object and then a student object, and we have added that student object, and here we are calling get student by id method and we pass the student id 2. So notice here student with id 1 is exist in the list, but the student with id 2 is not exist. Okay, so let us first pass the student id 1 which is exist in the list. Now the actual object contains the value. Next let us use assertNotNull method to check the actual object is not null. So here just type assert not null, and notice here there are 3 overloaded assertNotNull methods. Let us choose first one, assertNotNull method. It takes single parameter and then pass actual object. So this assertNotNull method verifies that the actual object is not null. Next let us run this test case, and notice here test passed because this actual object contains the value and the expected result should be not null, and the actual result is also not null. That's why the assertion passed. Eventually the test case also passed. Next let us say we want to get the student with id 2, and notice here the student with id 2 is not exist in the list because we haven't added that student. We have added only one student, that is student 1. Next, if I run this test case, this should fail because this get student by id returns null as this student with id 2 is not exist in the list. Alright, perfect. Next let us explore the other overloaded assertNotNull methods. Let me comment out this, and here just call assertNotNull method, and next let us choose this assertNotNull method that takes 2 parameters, actual object as a first parameter, string as a second parameter, and then pass actual object as a first parameter and message as the second parameter. So let us pass student is null. If this test case fails, then this message will be displayed in the result, and this is basically a cause why the test failed. Okay, the student is null, that's why the test failed. That's why the message student is null. Okay, perfect. Next, let us run the test case. Notice here the test failed with a custom message student is null. Okay, so student with the id 2 is not exist, that's why this assert failed and eventually test got failed. And if I pass student id 1 here, this should pass because the actual object is not null. Okay, if I run the test case, you can see test passed. Alright, next let us explore other assertNotNull overloaded method. So just type assertNotNull and then choose this method. It takes actual as a first parameter, second parameter as a supplier interface, and then pass actual object as a first parameter and lambda implementation as a second parameter. The supplier interface is a functional interface and we have to provide the lambda implementation for it. So here is the lambda syntax, lambda symbol, and then within a body just pass the message student is null. Well, this supplier functional implementation will be evaluated lazily. It means if the test case will fail, then only this logic will be evaluated and this corresponding message will be printed in the result. If the test case passes, then this logic won't be executed. Okay, so basically in order to support the lazy evaluation and Java 8 features, this supplier functional interface was introduced. Alright, perfect. Next, let us run the JUnit test case, and test passed because the actual object is not null. So this is how we can use assertNotNull method to verify that the actual object is not null. Alright, great. I will see you in the next lecture.